In the hotel world, it's often the smallest, most overlooked details that can make or break the entire guest experience. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most critical of those details: mastering the art and the science of OS&E procurement.
Hello and welcome. I'm an AI expert with a deep background in modern hospitality operations, and I am so pleased to welcome all of you from the Europe Hotel School. Think of me as your guide. My goal is to share key insights from years of real-world hotel experience to support you on your professional journey. So let's get started.
Okay, let's just dive right into why this topic is so incredibly important. This quote, it says it all. We're not just talking about buying some forks and plates here. A mistake in this area can literally be catastrophic for a hotel's launch. Just imagine, it's your grand opening night, the restaurant is buzzing, and you run out of clean wine glasses an hour into service. It's a disaster. The entire guest experience just crumbles. That's how high the stakes are in the world of OS&E. So to make sure that never, ever happens to you, we're going to break this down into 4 clear parts. First, we'll get a solid handle on what OS&E actually is. Then we'll dive into the art of specifying the perfect items. After that, we'll switch to the science of figuring out exactly how many you need. And to wrap it all up, we'll walk through how to execute that final critical order. All right, let's kick things off with part 1, really understanding OS&E. I like to think of it as the invisible foundation that all great guest service is built on. So what is OS&E really? It stands for Operating Supplies and Equipment, and the textbook definition is pretty simple. It's all the non-food, non-capital stuff you need to be ready to serve your very first guest. Basically, these are the tools of our trade, the things your team uses every single minute of every day to create that seamless, amazing experience. And to make that a little more real, here are some examples. We're talking about the china your beautiful food is served on, every piece of glassware and silverware, the linens for the tables and guest rooms. But it goes way beyond that. It's also all the behind-the-scenes heroes, like service tools, kitchen smallwares, and even cleaning supplies. It's a huge, huge category. Now, here's a really critical point, especially for anyone who's going to be a manager one day. You have to understand the difference between OS&E and something called CapEx. OS&E is an operating expense, or OpEx. Think of it as your day-to-day stuff. CapEx, on the other hand, stands for capital expenditure. Those are the big, long-term investments, like a new kitchen oven or all the furniture for the lobby. Knowing where an item falls is absolutely fundamental to managing a budget correctly. Okay, let's move on. Once we know what OS&E is, the next question is, how do you pick the right stuff? This brings us to what I call the art of specification. And trust me, it's about so much more than just picking things that look pretty. When you're looking at an item, let's say a dinner plate, you have to think like an operator, not just a designer. How tough is it? How well does it stack in a tight storage area? How much is it going to cost to replace when it inevitably breaks? Can it actually survive your high-powered commercial dishwasher? Does it chip if you just look at it wrong? And of course, does it even make sense with your menu concept? This is where that beautiful design has to meet cold, hard operational reality. And that leads me to a rule that is absolutely non-negotiable. Before you go and order thousands of plates or glasses, the department head, like your food and beverage leader, has to physically hold, test, and sign off on a final sample. It sounds simple, but this one little quality control step will save you from making some incredibly expensive and embarrassing mistakes. So we've talked about the art of choosing the right item. Now let's switch gears and get into the science. And this is all about something called par levels. This is your mathematical formula for making sure you're always ready for service. So what exactly is a par level? To put it simply, it's the absolute minimum number of an item you need to have in your hotel at all times to make sure you never, ever run out. It's your safety net, and it's not a guess, it's a calculation. And you don't just pull this number out of thin air. It's a formula that takes a few key things into account. First, you have to know your usage rate. How many plates or glasses do you go through on your busiest day? You also have to think about the entire wash cycle time. Then there's the practical reality of your storage space. And finally, you have to be realistic and factor in how many items get broken or lost. And all of that thinking comes together in this core formula. Your par level is your maximum daily use times 2 plus a little extra for safety stock. Now that times 2 is the secret sauce. Why? Because it means you have one set of items in use with the guests while a whole other set is in the back going through the wash cycle. The safety stock? That's your buffer for when things go wrong. Okay, let's make this real with an example. Say we have a 100-seat restaurant. We figure on our busiest day, we'll use about 150 dinner plates. So we multiply that by 2 for the items in use and in the wash, which gets us to 300. Then we add a 10% safety stock, another 30 plates. Add it all up, and our total par level is 330 plates. See? Not so scary.
And this chart really shows you why getting that number right is so important. It's a total balancing act. If your par level is too low, you're risking service failure, the worst thing that can happen. But if it's too high, you've just got money and storage space tied up in boxes of plates that are just sitting there, collecting dust. The goal is that sweet spot right in the middle. That's where you find true operational efficiency. So this brings me to a really important question for all of you. Why is this disciplined, numbers-driven approach so critical for your career? Well, because it proves you can do two things at once. You can protect that precious guest experience while also protecting the financial health of the hotel. That's what makes a leader. And that brings us to our final section, executing the final order. This is where all that careful art and science comes together. It's where the plan becomes reality. Now, placing the final order isn't just clicking buy on one website. It's usually a complex order from many different vendors. And the process needs a clear chain of command. The F&B leader gives the operational green light. Yep, these are the right items. But then it has to go to the finance department for the final sign-off. And why is that last step with finance so important? Because it's the ultimate check and balance. It makes sure this very large purchase fits perfectly within the hotel's approved operating expense budget. It's what connects your smart operational choices directly to the hotel's bottom line. So, let's end on this thought. That truly unforgettable guest experience we're all chasing, it isn't created by one singular grand gesture. It's built on a foundation of 1,000 perfectly executed details, right down to having the right number of spoons in the right drawer. As a future leader in this industry, your job is to master every single one of them,